In the spring of 2013, an incredible disappearance of U.S. Army veteran Maribel Ramos took place. The 36-year-old woman vanished into thin air, leaving behind only unanswered questions. Hundreds of people rushed to search for the missing woman, but unfortunately, Maribel was found dead. However, the killer made one fatal mistake that helped solve this chilling case. Maribel Ramos' life journey began in 1976 in Mexico. When she was just 2 years old, her family emigrated to the United States in search of a better life. From a young age, Maribel stood out for her boldness and ability to attract the attention of those around her. The girl's childhood was not easy. Her father abandoned the family, and her mother had to work several jobs to support the children. As the eldest of the daughters, Maribel took on the responsibility of raising her younger siblings. Despite the difficult life circumstances, Maribel never gave up on her dreams of a better life. She longed to escape the poverty in which her family was forced to exist. The girl imagined herself as the owner of a luxurious spacious house and a premium-class car, dreaming of vacations at expensive resorts. Maribel understood that in order to achieve her desires, she needed to work hard and persistently. Even while still in school, the future Maribel decided on her choice of profession. She wanted to become a police officer. As soon as she turned 18, she got a job as a security guard at a local supermarket. But in order to become a police officer, she needed to get the appropriate education, and there was a lack of funds for this. So Maribel decided to join the army. In August 2001, the girl became a private first class. Those years were turbulent. Maribel had to take part in combat operations in Iraq. It was there that she received the rank of sergeant. After the end of her contract, Maribel decided to continue her service and signed a new one. In total, the woman served in the U.S. Army until 2009. After completing her military career, Maribel decided that it was time to move on. She enrolled in the law faculty of the University of California, choosing the specialty, criminal justice. In parallel with her studies, Maribel began working at the college. But 8 years in the army did not pass without a trace. The woman suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder and was forced to regularly visit a psychologist. Work and study became a kind of respite for Maribel, helping to distract from oppressive thoughts. At that time, the woman rented a modest 2-room apartment in a small residential complex in the town of Orange, California. She also got herself a dog there. But soon, in 2009, Maribel faced a new shock. Her mother died. This loss was a real blow to the entire Ramos family. 2 years later, in 2011, Maribel faced financial difficulties. The woman decided to find a roommate in order not to end up on the street. A man 18 years older than Maribel, a chemist named Kwang Chol Joy who had recently moved to California from Tennessee, responded to her ad. Because the man's name was too exotic and difficult to pronounce, he asked to be called simply KC. In the fall of 2011, KC rented a room in Maribel's apartment and began paying his share for housing every month. Despite the age difference, the new neighbors quickly became friends and grew close, although both denied any romantic connection between them. KC turned out to be a committed introvert. He practically did not leave the house and struggled to make new acquaintances. Instead, Maribel tried in every way to cheer up her roommate, constantly inviting him somewhere, whether for a walk, dinner, or a party. In the spring of 2013, 36-year-old Maribel Ramos was finally finishing her studies at the university. The woman was preparing to receive her coveted bachelor's degree and was already making plans for a new job. It seemed that a bright future awaited her. And suddenly, the incredible happened. Maribel disappeared without a trace. The morning of May 3rd brought alarming news. The missing woman's sister, Lucy, received a message from KC in which he wrote that Maribel had not spent the night at home and had not yet returned, and she was not answering calls. In the afternoon, the concerned neighbor himself called the police and reported the woman's disappearance. KC said that he last saw Maribel on the evening of May 2nd. He went out for a short walk, and when he returned an hour later, Maribel was gone. Almost a day had passed, and the woman still had not appeared. Since Maribel was an adult and independent, and also had 8 years of military service behind her, her relatives did not immediately sound the alarm, assuming that she could have spent the night somewhere else. However, when the woman did not show up for a softball game on the evening of May 3rd, which had never happened before, everyone realized that something was wrong. An active search began. Police officers, together with Lucy, came to the missing woman's home. No one was in the apartment, but the lights remained on. Perfect order reigned in the rooms, with each thing in its place. The only thing that alarmed the officers was the unmade bed. The pillow was lying without a pillowcase, and a crumpled blanket lay nearby in disarray. What they saw greatly frightened Lucy, as she knew how neat her sister was. Continuing the search, investigators found a pajama top with traces of dried blood in Maribel's bedroom. As it would later turn out, it was the blood of the owner herself. The phone and keys also disappeared from the apartment, while all personal belongings, wallet, toothbrush, underwear, clothes, jewelry, handbag, remained in place. It looked as if Maribel was not going to go anywhere. Her car was parked near the house, right on the territory of the residential complex. Soon KC returned to the apartment. For the second time, he repeated his testimony, claiming that he last saw Maribel on the evening of May 2nd. The man looked worried and offered the police all possible assistance. Meanwhile, all of Maribel's relatives, friends, and acquaintances joined the search. The missing woman was a very popular and respected person. She was known and loved by many people in the district, and everyone sincerely wanted to find her alive and unharmed. Detectives managed to obtain footage from surveillance cameras inside the residential complex where Maribel lived. They clearly show how on May 2nd, around 8 in the evening, the woman appeared near the office of the management company and handed over an envelope with money. She brought the monthly rent payment for her apartment. Maribel was dressed in home clothes. She moved slowly, was relaxed, and was in no hurry to go anywhere. And an hour later, the woman disappeared without a trace. To clarify all the circumstances, the police interviewed everyone they could contact. First of all, the investigators were interested in the person of a certain Paul Lopez, a man with whom the missing woman had a romantic relationship. It turned out that Paul and Maribel had met only a couple of months ago and had just started dating. Paul worked at a gas company, and he was the last person the woman talked to on the phone before disappearing. As Paul said, on the evening of that fateful Thursday, he called Maribel just to talk. The woman was at home. At some point, she complained to her lover that her neighbor had again not paid the rent for the current month. Paul even heard KC's voice somewhere in the background of the conversation. Maribel turned on the speakerphone and addressed her roommate, ordering him to pack his things and get out the next morning. Inflamed with jealousy, Paul added fuel to the fire and threatened that if KC did not leave, he would come and throw all his belongings out on the street himself. The conversation ended there. Later it turned out that Paul spent the entire night after the conversation at work, and the police were able to confirm this thanks to the GPS navigator on his truck. The data showed that the man was quite far from Maribel's house on the night of her disappearance. During the interrogation, Paul admitted that in addition to Maribel, he had relationships with several other women. However, the man did not know if Maribel herself was dating someone, because he never asked her about it. But later, facts surfaced that at the time of her disappearance, the woman had romantic relationships not only with Paul. She even managed to schedule a date with a military photographer, whom she recently found via the internet, for May 5th. The investigation into the disappearance of Maribel Ramos was gaining momentum. Investigators found out that a week before her disappearance, the woman made an alarming call to the emergency service. In a conversation with the operator, Maribel admitted that she had quarreled with her neighbor over non-payment of rent and wants him to move out at the end of the month. She said that she lied to him about having a gun in order to protect herself, as she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Maribel warned that she would fight for her life and could even kill her neighbor, whose name is Kwang Chol Joy. When police officers arrived at the Ramos house that same evening and talked to KC, he was calm. The man told about a joint trip to a restaurant, where after a few glasses of alcohol, Maribel became aggressive, began to insult him and threaten him with a gun. The officers advised KC to keep his phone with him, sleep in a locked room, and be prepared for a possible attack. Exactly 1 week after this event, Maribel disappeared without a trace. During a search of the missing woman's apartment, investigators seized her laptop and bedding. DNA samples were taken from KC and his body was photographed, on the hands of which fresh scratches were visible. The man was very worried and told everyone how much he loved Maribel, that she was his best friend and only family. In fact, KC was in love with his neighbor, and she considered him too old, because he was 54 and she was only 36. Even plastic surgery that cost $12,000 did not make the man more attractive to Ramos. On the evening of May 3, after KC's call to the police, officers wanted to talk to him, but did not find him at home. During the interrogation, it turned out that at that moment he was sitting in a car and watching the house through binoculars. The man explained this by his passion for crime shows and the desire to see what would happen next. KC confirmed the quarrel with Maribel over the rent before her disappearance. After the conflict, he went for a drive around the city to calm down, and when he returned, the neighbor was already gone. The man suggested that Paul took her away. Explaining the origin of fresh scratches on his hands, KC told about the rescue of a duck that got tangled in fishing nets, and falling on thorny bushes when getting out on the shore. The search for Ramos dragged on without results. On May 8, a friend of the missing woman, Emily, wrote a post on the Yelp website, hoping to draw more attention to the search. Under the post, KC left a comment, calling Maribel his best friend and only family. He complained about multiple searches of the apartment by the police and the seizure of his belongings. The next day, a user named Gran drew attention to the unusual use of the past tense in KC's comment regarding Maribel. The man explained this by his imperfect command of English and asked not to make guesses and not to judge him. In the next comment, KC confessed his love for Maribel and said that she was his sole heir, to whom, after his death, $250,000 should be paid under an insurance policy and all bank savings. The police began to monitor KC, interrogated him, trying to get a confession, but found nothing suspicious in his apartment, phone or computer. However, surveillance showed that the man visited the library several times, where he used the internet. Detectives tracked his search queries and found that KC was interested in a specific area in the forest near the road with a large tree. Going to this place, the investigators felt an eerie smell and soon found the body of 36-year-old Maribel Ramos. Kwang Chol Joy was accused of murder, and the victim's name tag was found in his pocket during the arrest. The man did not admit guilt. At the trial in 2014, the cause of Maribel's death could not be established due to the severe decomposition of the body, which lay for 2 weeks in a shallow pit. Identification took place by tattoos. Although there was no direct evidence against KC, his search queries at the library led the police to the exact location of the body. It was assumed that the man attacked Ramos at night when she went to bed, covered her face with a pillow and held it until the woman died. Then he transferred the body to a rented car, took it to the forest and, overcoming a fence with barbed wire, injured his hands. KC carefully planned the crime so as not to get on cameras. At the trial, he claimed that the real killer hacked the library computer and framed him. However, the jury found KC guilty of second-degree murder and sentenced him to life imprisonment with the right to parole after 15 years. Maribel's family was deeply saddened by the loss and considered KC evil and cowardly, seeing no possibility of forgiveness. During his years of imprisonment, the man wrote about 90 letters to the judge, in each confessing his love for Maribel and trying to prove his innocence. Now 65-year-old KC seeks complete acquittal, otherwise he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Until next time, friends.